I'm talking to Roko Belic, director of the film Happy that screened here at IPA. It was a beautiful film on all levels.
Thank you.
It was so touching. It's packed with take-home messages, and so thank you so much for that. What inspired you to make it?
Simple. I was inspired to make the film by a phone call. A friend of mine called me up, and he said that he read an article in the New York Times that compared countries in terms of happiness.
Yeah.
And the article said America is one of the richest countries, but nowhere near the happiest. And this friend of mine is this very successful Hollywood director named Tom Shadyac, who has made these huge blockbuster comedies like Liar Liar and The Nutty Professor and Bruce Almighty.
Yeah.
And he said that something he's noticed over the last 10 years of his Hollywood lifestyle is that his gardener and his housekeeper have a more genuine smile on their faces usually than the movie star friends that he sees every day who are millionaires.
Yeah.
So he had always had this question, like, how is it possible that people who have so much money and basically have the perfect life, or have everything going for them?
Is it just that he's such a good employer?
Yes, exactly, exactly. I don't think so. Actually, what he saw is that he saw that the people who had this kind of simple lifestyle, who were dedicated to the work they were doing, and who were satisfied by things that were accessible to them, rather than constantly pursuing things that were just out of their reach. You know, like if you want to be rich, there's always somebody a little bit richer. And if you want to be famous, there's always somebody a little more famous, or there's always somebody a little better looking. But Tom didn't actually know. He just thought there's something wrong here, that people who seem to have everything are less happy than people who have lifestyles that we would not necessarily aspire to.
Yeah.
So
different focus going on.
Exactly. So Tom called me and said, you know, we should make a movie exploring the true causes of happiness, and I'll help you pay for it. And you're a documentary filmmaker, so you should do it. So that's how it started.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So his story made you want to do that. Like, did you relate to it personally, or did you just think it was such a good story that it would work?
Did. No, when Tom mentioned that about his housekeeper and his gardener, I had this a very strong recollection of my first experience in Africa.
Yeah.
When I was 18 years old, I went with a group of students who had raised money for refugees of the Mozambican Civil War. And this war was like 17 years long, and people, rather than just killing each other, they tortured each other, and they cut people's arms off, and they cut their lips off, and noses and ears, and they actually left them living to instill fear in the fellow villagers. So I was trying to prepare myself, as an 18-year-old, I was trying to prepare myself to see this extreme suffering and struggle. And what I saw when I got there was amazing, and was exactly the opposite. I saw people who were totally alive, who were just beaming with joy and appreciation and curiosity. Maybe because they had suffered, or despite the fact that they had suffered, they had a spark, a kind of, you know, a zest for life that I saw missing in my friends at home.
Yeah.
People who didn't suffer anywhere nearly as much as what these people in Mozambique had. So it's a question that I always had: how is it possible that people who have struggled and suffered, people who still didn't own anything, you know, they didn't own more than the shorts that they were wearing, they didn't have shoes or shirts or a place to live or anything, and yet they had a genuine happiness that I don't know where it came from. And of course I knew that they also struggled, and they also suffered, and they also felt hardship and pain, and they also cried.
It's not the antidote to sadness to go through some deep suffering.
Right, and it wasn't that they had one or the other, they had both. The amount of joy that they had and the amount of enthusiasm they had for life was just huge. And I didn't know how they got that. So that was my question: how is it possible that people who suffered so much, or who are so far from achieving the American dream, how is it possible that they seem so fulfilled in their lives? And so I wanted to explore that on a cultural level, on a societal level. So we shot our film in 14 different countries, and I wanted to really explore these ideas about happiness.
Yeah, that film was amazingly diverse, with so many different examples that were wonderful of people who've gone through such suffering, from bullying to the same kind of destruction, you know, physically. So it was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you. So what are you hoping people take from the film?
I think the most important thing that I hope people get out of the film is that they feel empowered to affect their own level of happiness. So, and that's predicated on another idea that's also critical, which is to understand how important it is to be happy. So some people think that it should be a byproduct of working really hard or achieving certain things, and happiness should come afterwards.
Yeah.
And in fact, a lot of the research is pointing to the opposite, that happier people are more likely to be creative and find solutions to problems. They're more likely to help strangers. They're more likely to be successful at work. They're more likely to make more money.
Okay.
And so happiness is actually really important for our health, for our families, for our communities, and our country and our world.
Yeah.
So I guess there's two things that really help people get out of it. That happiness is really important, not only for themselves, but for their communities and for the world. And I also hope that people feel empowered to affect their own happiness, because so much of it is within our control.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely a take-home message from your film after seeing it, so I think they'll get that. I think it's a great point, like, not just doing to be happy, but being happy to do good things.
Yes.
Kind of an exchange between the two, an interaction between those two.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for the film. I enjoyed it. You got the standing ovations.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming to check it out.
All right, thank you so much, Roko. So, are you having screenings around?
The best way for people to find out about it is to go to our website, which is thehappymovie.com.
All right, thehappymovie.com. Okay, happymovie.com.